What up, YouTube? Excuse me. Um, okay, let me go through the whole stability thing. Okay. When we talk about stability, there's different levels of stability. Um, so when I say stability, I know I don't say it all the time, but I'm talking about overall stability. Okay. But when people talk about stability, they tend to only talk about financial stability. And even then, they still don't understand what financial stability means. It's not having a whole bunch of money. You know, the women will come on and say, oh, see, you as men, you say, go for the guy who's stable, but then when we go for a guy, who has the money, we're seen as gold diggers. There's a big difference between gold digging and stability. It's right. It's like being on the opposite side of the Grand Canyon. So you better understand where you lie. Okay, what side of the Grand Canyon are you on? Okay, financial stability isn't necessarily so much about how much somebody is making. Of course, there's a baseline level of what you need to be considered financially stable in America, right? The way with the cost of living and all the different types of insurance people need to have, whether it's a car, home, or whatever. So there is a base level, okay? But it's not necessarily about how much you're making. People want to hide the whole idea of materialism with financial stability and all that other good stuff. No, it has nothing. So what I mean, okay, you can be a dude making, X amount of dollars, and then you can be another brother making that plus, 50K, right? So you could be making more than another brother, but it doesn't mean that the brother making less is any less financially stable. Okay? Oftentimes we confuse financial stability with somebody's ability to obtain material items. Right? So because this person can buy a Mercedes, but this person can only buy a Nissan, that the person with the Mercedes is more financially stable. No. Right? To me, financially stable, it's either a yes or no. It's either you are financially stable or you are not. That's just how I look at it. Do you have enough to save? Do you have enough to, of course, meet all your monthly bills, pay off some of your debts? And even in regards to saving, do you have enough to create a true saving? Do you have enough to maybe invest here and there? Right? To me, that's financial stability. And a lot of it is just based off of your lifestyle. Okay? What is not enough for somebody to be financially stable is more than enough to make somebody else financially stable. The crazy thing is, I when I talk to people who aren't living in California, and, we talk about life and, just the cost of living, the sad thing is, I can be in another another state right now and be perfectly normal. Like, be doing more than well, right? So there's a whole bunch of different variables that go into financial stability, not just how much you make. And the women will come on and, like I said, want to hide the whole idea of wanting to date for money and wanting materialism and all that other good stuff, and act as if they're just going for somebody who's financially stable. And there's a big difference. And if you try to play that game, it's one of those games that will come back and really bite you hard. To act ignorant or act like, there is no difference and, try to fool somebody. So yeah, that's financial stability. But even if somebody is financially stable, according to my definition, it doesn't mean that they're just stable all around. There's spiritual stability. Right? And when I talk about spiritual stability, it goes back to the whole idea of wilding out Saturday night, but going to church Sunday morning. That's not somebody who's spiritually stable. Okay? There should be no drastic jumps, right? If I look through your closet, there shouldn't be, clothes for, going to the club and then clothes for going to church. Like, it should all be the same. You should be in the same area. You should be stable, right? You shouldn't be too high. You shouldn't be too low. You should be balanced. And of course there's, emotional stability as well. Right, 1 second you're extremely happy, next second you're extremely depressed. Right, I've had some friends and I've known some people who were pretty emotionally unstable. Okay, so you can be financially stable, but be horrible spiritually, be horrible emotionally. Seen it happen. I've seen it happen before. Okay? You know, in terms of my personal life, the women that I actually come in contact with, the whole idea of them being financially unstable is just not a reality. But in regards to emotional and spiritual, they're tanking it. They're struggling. Okay? And just the simple act of saying you're in church, you know, putting up that you're in church on your Twitter, I don't even use Twitter, but on your Facebook or whatever, doesn't mean much to me. The act of you going to church and saying I'm in church 8 days out of the week and I'm involved in this, that, and the third, and here's pictures of me and my church group at Denny's eating brunch, that doesn't say anything to me because it's these same women that will turn around then have, you know, pictures up or have comments up that contradict the quote-unquote path in regards to their faith that they have taken. So they still don't get the stamp of approval in terms of being spiritually stable or emotionally stable. So I can't give them the whole title of somebody who is stable. And I'm sure you can flip it around and say the same thing about dudes as well. You know, I'm not going to sit here and argue, yeah, and men, you know, and we're just so stable. No, right? I know brothers who have money, but they're not stable people at all. Right? Emotionally, they're unstable. Financially, they're unstable. Or no, financially they are, but emotionally and spiritually, they're suffering horribly. You know, what kills me is people act as if, you know, if you date somebody who's financially stable, you'll be okay. Right? And you're just going to be happy. As if there's not people who are in shitty relationships, even though money is not an issue. When my parents split, money wasn't an issue. Growing up, some of the other families that I knew and the friends that I had who also had parents who were divorced or who had marital issues wasn't because of money. Okay? But people act as if, especially in the black community, that, you know, if you date somebody who has money and they're financially stable, or just, you know, if they have money, then you guys are straight and there'll be no problems. Right? But in reality, it's not the case. Right? Not at all. And you have so many women who act as if all they need is money, but end up being hurt. You know, I did a video before talking about how it's funny how women say they want a dude who's more successful, but they're not ready to deal with what he has to do to be successful. It's like the dude who's making 6 figures or the dude who owns his own business. Do you think he has time? Do you think he works the 9 to 5? He works 24/7. He works 24/7. He may have to travel. He may have to, you know, answer phone calls. He may have to cancel this dinner a date, or he may have to cancel the family vacation or alter it for that money. And then you have women who complain. Oh, you're not home enough. You know, you're not doing enough for your family. What do you think he had to do to get that money? The house that you live in, all these things that you're able to do, right? This is how he got there. But he's financially stable. I thought that's what you wanted. So like I said before, it's more than just financial stability. Okay? And like I said, even then, when people define financial stability, they don't even do it right, you know, or at least it doesn't match up with mine, right? So in regards to stability, yeah, there's a financial component, but then there's the emotional component, and then there's the spiritual component. Okay, and because really as black people we don't understand, or we're too afraid to talk about emotions, and you know we're too afraid to really explore what spirituality is. We just have this whole church, you know, TD Jakes, gospel, let's clap hands. Not to knock anybody who's into that, but you know, if you're truly into it, you would understand that there's more to it than just the, you know, going to church and, you know, doing the whole Sunday mass type jump off. You know, there's more to it than just that. But, you know, when it comes to that category, we're severely struggling because we don't want to admit it. We don't want to look into it. You know, and you know, we're so focused on money and materialism that we act as if we have money and we have nice things, that you know, that makes us complete, and that's what makes us happy. Right? A lot of the women, like I said before, that I come in contact with are women with money. Or not balling, but you know, they're doing well for themselves. They went to college as well, right? But in regards to them being stable, I can't say they are, because emotionally, they're not taking care of themselves. Spiritually, they're not taking care of themselves. They're not stable people, right? Even their relationship with the church, it's not even something that they've even adopted 100%. They do it because they can't take care of themselves. And instead of learning it and accepting it, no, it's this stubborn feeling that as long as, money's involved and it's not an issue, then I'm just happy. Right? But there's more than that. There's really more to stability than just the finances. So, hopefully that answers some people's questions, because, I know people have some issues in regards to what is stability and how do we define it. So you guys take it easy. God bless.